Alrighty then, g'day guys, and welcome. My name is Michael, and I am the Dead Aussie Gamer, and welcome to this rather impromptu but very, very fun session 0. You may be wondering what we're doing here today, and that is we are going to be spending today going through the basics of a session 0 for really any kind of tabletop role-playing game. But as a twist of fate, as it were, I will not be conducting this as the GM. In fact, our lovely and dear friend Rick has offered to run this session 0 in preparation for perhaps a game that we may play where I actually get to take the seat of a player. So let's give a big shout out and a big thank you and all the love hearts in chat for Rick as we sit down and enjoy this game. We haven't decided anything at all. We don't know what game we're playing. We don't know what we happen to be doing. So yeah, thank you, Rick, and looking forward to seeing what we do today.
Yeah, okay. So, welcome to the channel, everyone. I am not the Dead Aussie Gamer, obviously. If you see me on the Discord, I go under Wandering Fool. That's the tag I use on most of my online interactions, but I don't have a channel or anything that I'm trying to promote. So the idea behind this is that we are missing the company of our lovely Shades, who would normally be making up the table here, as we would be looking to do Attack of the Swarm. And some of you may be disappointed in missing that, and we are a little too. It's book 6. We're looking forward to finishing that story, that adventure with a bang. But at some point along the way, I did promise that I would run a Pathfinder First Edition game for Michael, because he doesn't actually get to play very often. He's usually the one telling the story and setting the scene for all of the rest. Oh, come on now. He has actually.
Yeah, Professor the
That is hilarious. Okay, so now I'm up in the top seat, and that feels really weird. But we only decided this about half an hour ago, so we thought it would be a good opportunity to do this as a session 0, to look at what kinds of things, not just that now Michael wants to play, but how would you approach perhaps a session 0 when you're looking to set up a new game for yourself. So there's a number of stages that we're going to walk through and just talk through those together. And I'm not on the chat at the moment, but hey, it's a good opportunity for you to throw your 2 cents worth in. Obviously, there's no plot twists in a session 0, or at least I hope there's not. That would be decidedly strange. So the first thing that we need to talk about is expectations, which I guess is really just another way of saying, what is it that we want to get from this game? So I'm actually going to turn it over to Michael first, because this kind of was an offer to him, and I'd like to hear what he is hoping to get out of this.
Yeah, okay. So, I guess as far as expectations for me, on a table goes, I am currently playing in 2 games, at the moment. One is, Rime of the Frost Maiden, and one is, the Rise of the Runelords game. As much as I love those games in particular, I guess I kind of want to steer away from playing intellectual characters. That's kind of my big expectation at the moment. Is I want to play a game where, I mean, it doesn't matter if it's fantasy, it doesn't matter if it's sci-fi. I want to play something that's going to be, it's going to be fun from a perspective of someone who may not necessarily need to be like kind of very intellectually savvy, you know what I mean? Like something simple, something that's got like a, maybe a kick the door down feel here and there. But that would be my expectations, or at least my hopes, should I say, for this particular game.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. What you'll often find is when people do have multiple games, you want to steer away from characters that you're playing quite a bit. So the next game that I want to play in will probably be something unlike Crash. Crash is the fairly straightforward melee type. I want something a bit more devious or possibly a bit more intellectual, going the other way. So you want something away from the intellectual and more towards the direct kick the door down. Okay, Neil, you?
For me, it's more or less it's kind of how I'm feeling at the time. If a class ends up picking my fancy, I'll usually go with that. But at the same time, it kind of depends on the type of group I'm with. It depends on the campaign. In another game, I actually I picked a ranger, but their background for where where their terrain is didn't fit the campaign at all. And now I'm like, oh, I don't know what's gonna.
Yeah.
So it just
Okay.
depends on.
Let me hold you there. I think we've actually gone one step too far already. We're already talking
Oh.
about characters.
Sorry.
And
Yeah.
that's probably my bad for
Um,
bringing Crash into the story. The game expectations, you after combat or an exploration or an intrigue?
I'm a little. I'm kind of a bit of both. I enjoy more. I'm more storytelling, but when it comes to combat, combat is another form of storytelling. So, that's kind of how I am. It's just I kind of go with the flow. It's more or less I just have fun playing with everybody, no matter what kind of game it is.
Yep. And that I think is probably part of the reason why I enjoy the Attack of the Swarm game. We actually have something of the same expectations there. You'll notice Neil and I, we enjoy storytelling, but we like our combat to be a form of story. So we like the cinematic style of combat, and Michael does that really well. So you're happy with a mix of things, and it sounds like, Michael, you want a more direct kind of game.
Well, it doesn't have to be. I guess it doesn't have to be like all direct, right? Like, for example, I know that there is things like Hell's Rebels, for example, which is a Pathfinder adventure where you have to play rebels in a rebellion. It's very subterfuge, intrigue-based, cloak and dagger, that kind of thing, and that's a predominant feature of that. So I guess my expectation is I wouldn't want to play something with, that as a predominant feature. Like if it's like, oh yes, you need to go and create a kingdom, like in Kingmaker, for example, and it's like, but when do I knock heads in? Like that would be my that would be where I'd be looking at.
Yep. And I guess one other thing to bring into the general picture here is one of the things you need to talk about with expectations is how long do you expect the game to run for? So one of the things that we'll probably be dealing with later on in terms of actually selecting stuff is, are we going to run a module or are we going to try and run an adventure path? Now, as a GM, I know that my strengths are in starting things up, and usually have this great idea of the climax, the big boss fight at the end, or not necessarily a boss fight, but the big set piece to end the story. But I'm just not good at getting there. I don't often put in the organization or the effort that Michael does to make sure that all the steps in the middle actually get you from A to Z. Paths and stuff like that are really helpful for me. It's a very important tool. Different people will lean different ways with homebrew or what have you, but I think that's something to take into account. So I like the idea of an adventure path, and we might choose one. But unless we choose to make it a priority, the odds of me actually finishing an adventure path for Michael are a little less, and we need to keep that in mind. Okay, so was there anything else you would like to talk on yet, Michael?
Oh, I was going to say, well, if that's going to be the case, I think an expectation that might be good is that what we might look at is something like a special pre-recorded edition, where there's a little less pressure on doing a weekly session, doing it live as well, and then instead doing it like maybe even a longer session, and getting through like one book at a time. You know what I mean? Like treat each book as a finale, as it were. With no expectations of going into the next one. Because the way that Paizo labels out their adventure paths is you've got 6 adventures that come together to make one big adventure. But ultimately, you could run any of those 6 adventures as a standalone adventure, with maybe the exception of book 6, because, you'd have to tweak things around to be like, oh, okay, cool, the kingdom's on fire for reasons you don't know, and now you have to get into this. You could potentially do that, right? So I think that would be kind of cool, is if we treat whatever thing we do, if we do an adventure path, or a module, just treat it as a single adventure, like no matter what we do. And then if we like it and if we want to keep doing it, we have the option to. But if we don't, then at the end of the day, we've still come to that full conclusion.
And I like this. It's a good thing to think through because it's my thinking was actually more that with enough warning, I could run something like this interposed within. So when we're missing Shades or Neil or whoever else might happen to join us on this table, we can run as we usually run, and then if I have a few days warning, I can get something set up if we're missing someone, and we can work with that.
Oh, that'd be cool. Yeah.
If we're pre-recording, that's a completely different approach. It allows us to be more structured and make sure that we have all the same characters at the same time, which might be a helpful thing.
Well, in that case, with other expectations to it, because obviously the channel has channel points and donations and things like that. How do you feel about those being inherently a part of your game if you were to run it live during?
I don't have a problem with that. Given that if that was the case, we would be playing a situation where we probably would have some variation in the characters. The only constant in some ways might be just that your character is there, Michael. Because it would be playing specifically when other people are dropping in and out. So it would be a good opportunity for people who want to try their luck, see if they like it.
So basically, just it's like if people want to, it gives everyone a chance to like mess with Michael for a change. Is basically what you're trying to say. You know, Lance is in the chat, right? I don't need that kind of.
Wasn't specifically what I had in mind, but sure, I'll go with that.
I felt like what you were saying just then. It's like, you know, yeah, because Michael's the constant here, guys. I mean, like, you know, because we've had to put up with Michael's plot twists.
It's going to be an adventure in solipsism. Michael and his imaginary friends.
That's right. Yep.
Okay, I think we covered that. Let's talk about some of the safety stuff, because this is really important. I take it you're not waving at me.
No, I'm waving at Jasmine. I will wave at audience members and stuff as they come in.
I'll wave at you.
Also, hi, Jazz. And also, hi, Wolven. Hi, Matt.
Yes, so step 2 is safety. Different people have different things that will be triggers for them. And, you know, this covers a lot of the usual stuff. How do people feel about kids being involved in the story? Torture, sexual assault. There's some serious stuff, and some of these adventure paths and adventure modules go to some pretty dark places. So it's important to cover this early. And it's important to cover it with a degree of openness and compassion, because they won't always be what you expect. I knew someone from years ago now, but she was phobic of snails. Not spiders, not sharks, not snakes, not any of the usual deadly fauna that we have here in Australia. Snails. So, yeah.
Well, there you go. Yeah, okay. So, I mean, I think for me, I'm usually okay with most things, right? Like, and when I say okay with most things, I mean that while I'm not necessarily comfortable in those situations, I appreciate the fact that in those situations, I am being as a player or as a person in that scenario, I am designed to not feel comfortable. That being said, it's all about the details. How much detail goes into those scenes. Most scenes I'm good with almost any level of detail. However, I'm definitely against too much detail in the vein of things like sexual assault, body horror as well, and I guess what's the word? I guess any level of violence, right? Like there is like, you know, yeah, you take your knife, you stab him, blood spurts from the wound and things like that. That's great and stuff like that. But when we do stuff that ends up sounding like it could come from like a couple of panels from the Punisher comics, that's when I kind of like, you know, that's when I'm kind of like, okay, you know, we don't necessarily need to go into like, you know, too much of the hyper realistic graphic nature of things. So, you know, while okay with those themes being in the game and being a part of that, again, just how much detail goes into it will entirely shape my enjoyment of it and whether or not I'm okay with it.
Yeah, and for me, it's usually it's stuff like that is okay for me. I'm usually not a huge fan of like sexism, racism, just the main, like big, I don't know how to say it, but if it's in there as for like, like, I don't know how to say it, but it's, it's if it's there, but there's not too much of it, as long as it's moving the story along, it's okay. But if it's there, that doesn't, it's like it doesn't need to be there. Why is it, kind of thing. So, but other than that, I usually don't make a big deal of it, and it's, it still makes the story. So,
Yep.
So as a kind of point on that, Neil, so are you saying that you would be a lot more okay with something that is written as part of the inherent plot versus something created like, say, a side quest that seems to feature those themes?
I mean, if it's a side quest, it's more or less, yeah, if it's part of the main plot, it's all right. I mean, obviously, it's still not okay, but it's just part of the story. It's there. It's not typically real, So it's like I'm okay with it since it's as a story, but like I'm not okay with it in real life. But
Yeah.
I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and yeah, no, I just wanted to clarify that because that's an interesting one as well, because obviously there are scenes and moments where as a GM we have to improvise very, very quickly, and sometimes that can be, like something that we just don't think about.
And
but
that's fine because it's just something that happens,
Yeah, and there are obviously times in our stories, especially when you're playing an adventure path, where you've got the scaffold of a story and it's trying to shape your emotions and shape your opinions on things around you. To actually be saying like, yeah, okay, cool. If the scaffold says do that, then I'm okay. But I'd prefer if you didn't, ad lib or throw in these things if you didn't have to. That's actually, a perfectly acceptable outline for that kind of comfort level.
But if it comes out, it's it was an accident,
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's a couple of things there. I think Paizo as a company is actually reasonably good at this stuff. They're aware of these issues and actually try and write and produce materials that deal with these things sensitively and appropriately. And because let's be honest, some of the older material is you go back to when I started role playing, which is a little while ago now, and the sexist stuff. Oh yeah, that was there. Racist stuff. Well, that's built in. That's your orcs and goblins and your bad guys.
Yeah.
So taking a more nuanced approach is a relatively new thing, but it does, in my view, actually improve the site to have more options. But the other thing in that is just being aware of each other as players, because you need to be conscious of perhaps some of the stuff that creeps into your own language. We're coming from quite different places. Players in the US and Australia. In Michael's other games, there's people from Europe. That you'd think that's all the same, but it's not. There's different cultural expectations in each place. So, and that's part of the reason why this kind of conversation is important. And if you see me looking down to the side here, it's just because I have some paper and I'm actually taking notes of this because it will actually be useful. This is actually a hypothetical exercise.
Also a great idea when you're doing a session 0, take notes because these are the things you need to remember.
Yep. So actually for me, and I've spoken, this is something about. I'm not fond of deliberate cruelty and torture. So it happens. It's a story element. I don't have a problem with that, but I fade to black fairly quickly on that one.
Oh, actually, I will also throw in, now that you mentioned that one. I do have one hard no, and that is torture of animals.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
I do have that as a hard no. I just yeah.
No torture,
Ironic.
and
So
like,
ironically, battling and killing of animals is fine. Going into a scenario where there's like like hunted animals mounted on the walls, that's fine. But I don't really want to be in a scene where I have to experience or become involved in the torture of innocent animals. Yeah. That's basically yeah.
just end it quick, get it over with.
Yeah.
And the other one that I have that isn't a hard no or anything, but it's something that often takes the enjoyment of the game. I play role-playing games because I like to often to be the hero, and that involves to me a sense of agency, and so being able to do things. So one of the reasons I like playing Crash, just as an example, is that I've set him up so that he can do things in a lot of different phases of the game. He has a level of envoy, so he has some diplomatic skills and I can talk. He has technical skills, so he can be involved in skill challenges, and he's also capable of holding his own as a melee fighter. So I have got lots of opportunities to be involved. Conversely, I hate spells like slow and all the rest. Some conditions that hold you back from being involved in the game, and there's not even anything scary or horrific about it. I just don't like it. So that actually comes into that's more an expectations thing, because that's not really a safety thing, but it's the things that you like in a game. So it's interesting. I've actually been in 1 or 2 sessions with Michael that have been horror games that have covered some of that sort of stuff, and there's been lots of fun, challenging for me, but lots of fun. But be aware of those. Okay, well, if that's the case, let's go to not the big question, but one of the big questions. What game? What sort of genre? What style are we looking at? And I'll say out of the gate here that Michael specifically requested Pathfinder First Edition. That's what's motivated this in the first place. So we'll almost, unless someone can mount a really, really good argument against it, that's where we're going.
Just kidding.
Sorry, Neil.
No, that's good. I appreciate that. Real quick, I'd like to give a very big shout out to Salsa Ray, who just raided the channel with their entourage of fellows. Welcome. We are creating a session 0 for a Pathfinder First Edition game. Because every now and then, normally on the Monday slot, we have Starfinder that we play with Patreons, where I serve as the game master. But every now and then we have, life happens, things happen, and we don't necessarily want to continue without the full table. So we're creating a session 0 where our friend Rick has volunteered to fill the slots that are empty with a game in which I get to take a break from the GM seat and play. Which is very kind, and I'm very much looking forward to it. So we're discussing what potentially we're going to look at, and going over what are the good elements of, a good session 0. So it's kind of like a tutorial / real session 0 for our game. So
I get to be a player with Michael.
Yeah, you get to be playing with me, and then I have to explain why you nearly die every session. So yes, in regards to what game, that's a good question. As a big fan of Pathfinder First Edition, like I'm a huge fan, and one of the things that has always frightened me, is as someone who is in the creative industry, I play what people want me to play, right? Like I have only so much control in what I get to enjoy. And there are so many Pathfinder adventures that they've released over the years that there is absolutely no way for me or most people in life to actually play through all the modules that show up. So there are definitely ones that are very near and dear to me that I've always wanted to play, and that I'm kind of like, oh man, I really want to play this because I may never get another chance, So I'm gonna throw out 3. I'm gonna throw out 3 adventure paths that if gun to my head, these are the last games I could ever play in Pathfinder First Edition. These are the 3 that I would want to play. I would want to play the Tyrant's Grasp, which is an adventure in which it's actually the last Paizo First Edition Adventure Path, and features a group of individuals engaging with the end of the events of Pathfinder First Edition, leading into Pathfinder Second Edition, and I just love the concept of that. The second adventure I'd love to play is Hell's Vengeance. Mostly because Hell's Vengeance is an evil campaign. As an evil campaign, you know, like, I see, I'm a big fan of anti-heroes, very much so. So what I'd love to do as an exercise, and something I've always wanted to try, is what's called an anti-villain. And I want to try and see if I can actually make an anti-villain work. So it would be through something like that. And the third thing that I'd really love to try is Giant Slayer. Giant Slayer is an adventure, as the name implies, in which a group goes after giants. I think that giants are a very underrated bad guy. I think that there are so many nuances to the different cultures of the giants and so many different ways that one can interact with them that I would absolutely love to be in that situation. Plus, as I mentioned when I was talking about expectations, I really want to play a game where I'm kind of, you know, kicking down the door, beating things up, rather than being the intelligent mastermind or the kind of, you know, the kind of spellcastery background dude. I want to kind of be an upfront type character, and I think Giant Slayer is a good one to facilitate that. Very selfishly, but you know, but that's what I was asked. So yeah.
And for me, I just like stories. You know, it doesn't matter what game or what modular story we end up doing. So if we play one of the three that Michael wanted, all good for me.
Awesome.
Okay. Yeah.
Sorry, super quick.
Tabletops.
Yeah, sorry, super quick. I'd like to give another big shout out to the Mercs of Mischief, who has just rated us once again. Hi, Puck. Hi, Josh. Hi, everyone. I hope you guys are having an absolutely awesome day. How have you been? How was your stream? Tell me all about it in chat. We are creating a session 0 for our intermittent games that happen between sessions where we are missing players. So that's what we're doing. We're creating a session 0 to discuss that. So yeah, take up a seat, enjoy, tell me all about your stuff, and enjoy what we're doing. Yay!
Okay, so we're up to choosing what genre and what type of game, and Michael's thrown out the 3 possibilities. That's just for the newcomers: Tyrant's Grasp, Hell's Vengeance, and Giant Slayer, which is interesting because I think there's a few different. And I was commenting before we came on stream that one of the things with the Paizo adventure paths is that in many ways they choose to really lean into different genre conventions. So you can go find a pirate game, you can go find the evil players game, you can find the Egyptian desert game, all of that stuff's there. Personally, one of my favorites, and obviously it's not relevant here, but if somebody's shouting out for another game later, Reign of Winter, because I love Eastern Europe and Russia and the whole folklore side of things there. So
you know what, that said,
Baba Yaga's around.
I've played through book 1 of Reign of Winter, and that's also definitely on my list of stuff I would love to play. Mostly because I too love the Eastern European kind of adventure tale, and I love, like, one of my favorite folklore stories is like the tale of like the Baba Yaga and all of that, which features very prominently in that particular adventure. So yeah, no, Reign of Winter is definitely a cool one as well.
All of these sound really cool.
So let's take a look at the 3 that we've got. We'll talk about the synopsis and buy-in once we get a little bit further along. This is just sort of my first reaction to those 3. Tyrant's Grasp sounds like a really fun story, and I'd kind of like to do it, but my concern is that I'm not Michael. You can tell by the video and audio that don't have the same setup at all. I don't have the same technical skills, I don't have the same GMing skills, and it will be something that we do from time to time rather than as a really conscious effort. And this is a story that, because it deals with the changeover between first ed and second ed, and is something that Michael is really invested in. I think it'd be better to do that well. I'm not saying I won't try and do a good job, but
No,
I
but
think
yeah,
it's-
because this is supposed to be an intermittent game, you know, Tyrant's Grasp, because of the gravity of what it is, would be better as an ongoing thing. Like, that is the major thing we do.
Yep.
Yeah, I get that. I get that.
Hell's Vengeance, I think, could be. See, that one could be absolutely awesome. I was explaining this before we went on air. I'm really bad at playing evil characters. If you've ever played Knights of the Old Republic or Fable or any of those sorts of games where they give you a path of making moral choices, I really struggle to lean into the bad guy side of things. I just inevitably wind up picking up light side force points and stuff. And okay, fair's fair. I am actually a chef, so that's my day job. So you'd kind of hope that I would struggle with the bad guys. But yeah, that would be interesting because I haven't read it. It's the kind of thing where it's possible that I would, as GM, I would be playing the good guys, and that could totally work. The only question I've got there is I would then be playing in a way, because the whole idea here is to tell a story together, but to set the scene so the players have fun. And in this case, that means that the baddies have to win.
Yeah, I mean, because that's another really big thing with any good GM. A good GM needs to be able to be okay with being defeated repeatedly and the forces of good constantly losing to the villains. I think that definitely also does have its own toll as well over time. So I think that one would in particular come down to the quality of our villains, I guess.
Absolutely, I was just going to say that. That kind of the traditional good guy is losing and the bad guys are winning. That has to be the kind of thing where you are invested in those characters. You have a buy-in with those characters, and whether they're nasty as or whatever, you want them to succeed.
So they can't just be unlikable, reprehensible bastards who you just want to, who you want more than anything else for a hero to come and smite.
So that one to me has the highest ceiling of that could really be cool. But it's also, I think, the one where I'm most likely to get like 3 sessions in and go, oh guys, I'm struggling to enjoy this. So
Trust me,
I'm just leaving that out there to think about. Giant Slayer, to me, again, I haven't looked at it, but it feels the most straightforward of those. And it would be the one with the least complication, but that doesn't necessarily make it the right choice. So what do you think? Let me know.
You know what? Honestly, when you brought up Reign of Winter, that did kind of tickle me as well. So I would definitely say, look, I would definitely say that I put these ones out there. Giant Slayer is great. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. I haven't played it or read it myself, but again, it explores giants, heroes versus big, nasty bad guys, encourages big brawling fighters. But thinking about Reign of Winter, like thinking about playing a big old Russian character, my name is Yuri. I work on small fishing boats. I am come to help my wife Ivanka. I just love the idea of like this big, strong Russian dude.
Yes.
That could be a lot of fun too. So I think given the nature of it, because you seemed to be familiar with Reign of Winter, at least to some degree, it does seem to hit all of my markers as to allowing me to play something that's big, burly, kick the door down-ish in nature. I would be absolutely happy to kind of look at that if that's something that's on the table as well. But yeah, those are what I'd go for. I definitely agree with I'd probably say no on Tyrant's Grasp and Hell's Vengeance, just because the points that you make are perfectly sensible. They make absolutely sense. Like, yeah, Tyrant's Grasp, maybe that's something we can do for our Patreon game after we do the Tournament of the Ruby Phoenix adventure. That would be kind of cool, and because we tried doing it a few months ago for a very brief period of time, but unfortunately we had to lose one of our regular players, and at that stage they were very essential to the plot. So we all kind of decided that, and it was also the time that you joined as well, and we decided that that was the time that we should change that game. So I'd love another chance to yeah, I'd love another chance to revisit that. So yeah, Tyrant's Grasp, you know, definitely put that on the shelf for later. Hell's Vengeance, yeah, I could definitely see that wearing down. Not to bring a point to this, but you know, you mentioned yes, your day job is as a pastor. We also, and this is a behind the scenes thing for our audience as well. There was a scene in the Attack of the Swarm adventure in which the group had to mediate between two big arguing factions of people who weren't giving ground. That was the nature of what was there, and Rick and I had a discussion about, you know, just kind of the place of, you know, like, hey, this is not fun because this is very reflective of stuff that, you know, you have to deal with, and that is you know, added to the stress of things, which shouldn't be what games are about. So with Hell's Vengeance being the nature in which it is, as a GM, you want to be comfortable with it. You want to have something that you're having fun with, and you don't want to really play something that you're going to have that risk of having it break down underneath you. So even though it may be fun and easy, no, I wouldn't say easy, but fun at the very least, to play a bunch of good characters as a GM, while a whole bunch of villains take the forefront, I think, yeah, over time, that'd definitely, like, whether or not you'd want it to, that will definitely weigh on you. Like, just in general, I feel the same way when I play in horror games. Is there's definitely a certain point where morale kind of starts to hit like a low point, and you have to take a break, or you have to kind of go, yeah, okay, we need to wrap this up. Yeah, so that's where I'm currently feeling in terms of those adventures.
I actually have the game I play at home, or very rarely these days, but I was running an Extinction Curse 2nd edition adventure path for my family, and I play Ox, the circus roustabout in that, who is a dwarven monk that I play with a terrible Russian accent. My kids actually have a video on the phone of me attempting the accent for Ox, in which I apologize for slipping between bad Russian, bad German, and bad Vlad. Basically, I slip across into the I am Vlad, Vlad the Impaler. It's one of those things with voice work. There's actually some things you can see online. A lot of putting on voice, and I'm not trained in that in any way. You need key phrases. You need key words that you can do easily that will roll into that accent, and then you can kind of pick things up from there.
Oh yeah, I know a guy who for some reason or another, whenever he wants to do French, he just says "oui oui baguette," and I'm like, it's really funny to watch him do it, because he actually goes into it, like, he talks normally and then he says the phrase and then he goes straight into French, and he doesn't speak a lick of it, but it's always really funny because it's always the same thing and we all laugh at it.
Okay, so I think those are solid grounds. Well, my video's lagging. Those are solid grounds for Tyrant's Grasp and Hell's Vengeance.
Mm-hmm.
So, Neil, how do you feel about Giant Slayer or Reign of Winter?
Reign of Winter just sounds... it's the name of each game. They just sound amazing. Reign of Winter just... I don't know. Reign of Winter, because I like the... if you've seen Fantasia, right? Or not
Fantasia?
Well, not Fantasia. Well, I mean, I think it was, yeah. I just love the Russian, like, animation look, you know, so just the Russian aspect in general. I like what sounds like that was the Winter's Reign one, right? Yeah, so that one just sounds really awesome to me in general, and I'm already coming up with ideas in my head for, like, it's just bouncing out. What's I'm gonna do? But there's the Winter's Reign sounds really awesome, and the Hell's Vengeance also sounds really cool to me. It's like fire and ice. Yeah.
All right. Well, I specifically don't want to be the person making the final decision here.
Okay, well, in which case, I'll say this. Let's do Reign of Winter. I think Reign of Winter has Neil excited. It's got me excited. It's something that Rick, you're familiar with. I think that's going to give us the best game. Also, real quick, to our dear friend, Careful Cantrip. Guys, if you haven't checked out Careful Cantrip, right, go do that. Go right now. Click on his name. Go follow his page. Careful Cantrip does an amazing D&D stream, and he also does amazing D&D prep. To answer your question, my friend, we are... normally on the Monday slot, we do a Patreon game. This Patreon game every now and then gets put on hiatus due to a player missing or a player being unavailable. It doesn't happen often, but it happens often enough that we've decided that that our dear friend Rick has offered to run an intermittent game in those in-between sessions, and we're just doing a Game Zero to discuss what that happens to be. We are going to be playing in Pathfinder First Edition, because I love First Edition. Like, I love First Edition. And Rick has kindly offered to run an adventure path. We're going through also the step-by-steps for the Session Zero tutorial, which we've started with our expectations as players. We've gone in through our safety and comfort levels. We are now discussing what precisely we want to play, and I think we've landed on a Frostbitten Winter campaign called Reign of Winter, which, Rick will tell us more about.
Okay, so this is the point where we get to talk about the game synopsis and the buy-in, and this is the point at which I admit that with the limited lead-in time we had this morning, I haven't really done any more than read the book descriptions on the Paizo website. So, I can tell you...
Oh, I was going to say, well, I have the book in front of me, and I'd be more than happy...
I just have it right here.
Not the full book, but there's actually so a lot of Paizo books from Pathfinder First Edition actually came with a player's guide that outlines what the players should know at the beginning of a game, which I'd be more than happy to.
Oh, please! That is absolutely the thing we need then.
Okay, cool. Let me just adjust a couple things here. Mostly because all right, here we go. So let me see if I've got. Here we go. Let's change this up. Let's get a mood going. That's very Christmassy. Look, I typed in winter. That's apparently the Winter's March. All right, let's try it. Let's try this one.
Yes.
Let's just go with Jingle Bells.
Yeah, okay, cool. This is frosty and cold. Duh. All right, I will do this. I'll read this out in my best Russian accent while I'm working on this. All right. So, as previously mentioned, Reign of Winter is filled with a bunch of basically it's set in the land of Irisen, which in the Pathfinder universe is a nation that was captured or taken from the Vikings, known as the Ulfin, by the witch known as the Baba Yaga and her daughters, who were instigated as the Ice Queens of Irisen. There's war between the land of the Linnom Kings, where the Ulfin come from, and Irisen, which is the land that was taken, as a bit of background to to this particular adventure. The reign of... Oh, wait, no, this is the forward. No, is it? No, it's not. Okay, here we go. The Reign of Winter adventure path is on its way, and an unseasonable pocket of winter has started to appear all over Galarian. It is surely no coincidence that this is the time when the Queen of Witches, the Baba Yaga, is scheduled to return to the frozen lands of Irisen. Will the PCs discover the sinister plot behind these winter pockets and stop them from spreading, or will Galarian be locked in an eternal ice age? The options in this guide will help guide the characters to the people and lands of the North, and the following recommendations and campaign traits are customized for the Reign of Winter adventure path. These hints and suggestions, as character options, are designed to help the players and characters perfectly suited to jump into and excel in courses over this deadly campaign. In this adventure path, the PCs don't know that they are about to be thrown into an unnatural winter and whisked off to a far-flung location. The guide balances what you need to help the players with the risk of spoiling the adventure path without hints as what is to come. There is chance that a group could end up in a desert-running ranger or a sea-singing bard, as well as dungeon-dwelling dwarf and air elementalist halfling, none of which have much of a thematic link to this campaign. This guide will provide suggestions as well as new rules which can help characters for Reign of Winter, but ultimately the details of the campaign are up to your GM.
All right, I'm loving that accent, but can we skip to the bit where we actually find out about the story intro?
Yes, for the Game Master. Nope, that is a spoiler. Well, at least it says spoiler warning at the top. Okay. For the Game Master, while this player guide is for the player's first most, it includes information that is helpful to the GM too. There are winter archetypes, blah, 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 blah. Character advice. During this adventure path, the PCs will visit a number of interesting and exotic places, but the humans can go unnoticed in most locations. Members of unusual race may have harder times blending in. Yada, yada, yada. Okay, so the first portion of the adventure is as follows. Okay. Sorry, 1 second. Can I hear you? All right. A supernatural pocket of winter has appeared in the border woods near the village of Heldren. The PCs are sent to investigate and find and are supposed to find a traveler who has apparently been kidnapped by bandits in the woods. Discovering a winter pocket, they must find the source of this unseasonable weather and bring it to a close. That is the intro scenario, as it were.
All right. So that's not a huge amount to go on. Can you hear me okay? My video is lagging badly again.
The video is lagging a little bit. Your audio is coming through fine. Okay.
So we're starting in the village of Heldren, as you've just picked up. I don't actually think that's in Irison. It might be to this. There we go, Nation Taldor. So it's in the nation of Taldor, for those of you who are familiar with Golarion.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to start with a Russian ice-oriented character.
Ah, okay.
And you are searching for a missing traveler. Venture into the woods in search of a missing noblewoman. I have, so it's somebody worth rescuing. There might be a reward involved, but that's the first step. From the village of Heldren in Taldor to explore the border wood, which is a lot colder than it usually is. Now, Heldren itself is a relatively small village. The population is only about 170, almost all human. With some of the other common other ancestries. But plenty of scope for throwing in other things from the woods or from travellers or unusual people from the town itself.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. Well, that changes it a little bit because I was like, I want to play a big Russian. Okay.
You can still totally be a big Russian. There's nothing wrong with that.
I mean, Taldor's a little far away from Irison. I mean, I would have had to have I doubt I'd have an accent because, you know, if you think about like how long it would take you to travel from like Irison to Taldor, it'd be like, you know, yes, I finally made it to Taldor. Now to start my new life in this warm and tropical. God damn it! Why am I back in Irison? It took me years to caravan back down here.
That would be pretty funny, actually.
I hate the cold. No, yeah. Also, a very big and warm welcome to Goblin Cave TV. Thank you for joining us today. We hope that you had a wonderful stream. To give us a quick recap on what we're doing, we're creating a session 0 for Reign of Winter, the Pathfinder 1st Edition adventure, and we're just chilling out, just having a good time. And you guys are welcome to chill and hang and put your feet up. All right. Interesting. Okay, so what do we know about Heldren? What's the go? What's the go about Heldren? I mean, I know Taldor is a human nation predominantly. I know that they believe themselves to be the truest heirs to the human bloodline, as they believe themselves the closest related to the humans of Aslant, which is what makes them very douchey and nobly. I don't know much about the people, though.
All right, so all this is literally all I've got, courtesy of Pathfinder Wiki. Useful to mention sources. Heldren, nation of Taldor, size village, population 171, 152 humans, 6 dwarves, 5 halflings, 4 gnomes, 3 elves, 1 half. It's led by a council, and the lead councillor is a councillor Iona Teppen. They're generally good people. They have 2 community leaders, Natharan Safander and Old Mother Theodora, and I know nothing about them.
Okay. I also know nothing about that. All right. Okay, so that kind of opens it up a little bit. Neil, do you have any idea what you're looking at for playing?
Like as for like what kind?
Like anything, really. Like yeah, like we need a starting point. So like like at the moment it's like we're in a human predominant nation. Now to reiterate, Taldor is not xenophobic. They don't like sort of exclude other races or anything like that, but the noble caste is almost entirely human. So like you don't have like, lizard folk trading merchants as part of like the head of guilds and stuff like that. So yeah, you don't have too many of those. But I think beyond that it's pretty open game. There's like Oh, and just as another question for Rick, are we doing this Pathfinder first edition style where goblins are kind of segregated and away from society, or have we integrated them as circa Pathfinder 2nd edition?
Unless you have a good reason otherwise, my inclination would be to integrate them. I enjoy goblin characters. I think they can be a lot of fun, and having them just as vicious little monstrosities is just a bit one note for me. It's entirely possible that I'll open the book and find out that you're about to be fighting a whole bunch of goblins, and there's not much I can do about that. But there's always the possibility that a particular goblin tribe is xenophobic and just horrible still.
But it's not the norm, as it were. It's not the stigma of all of them have to be that way.
Yep. So the thing I can tell you other than that is that Heldren is on the edge of the Border Wood in Taldor, and the Border Wood I have a bit more information on. So the Border Wood is claimed by both Taldor and Kadira. So if you know anything about Kadira, that's another possibility. Most settlements are built along the forest edge, and few penetrate into the woodland proper. It's not large when compared to the Verduran forest in Taldor's north, but it is nonetheless the nation's 2nd largest forest. Its interior is treacherous and complex, containing several steep valleys and winding creeks that make navigation difficult within it. Home to a great variety of wildlife, large herds of game, and considerable populations of predators, lions and wolves. Also,
I'm sorry, did you say lions?
Yeah.
I know, that's what it says. I'm just reading it. Also, Lucrotas, chimeras, peritons, and trollhounds. Various kinds of undead, a legacy of the centuries of between Taldor and Kadira, and consisting mostly of ghosts and spectres. And Fae are also common in the Border Wood.
So you mentioned that, and I did have an idea that I got to bring up to you first because I want to know. Dampire.
Okay.
Dampire human.
It's not really that kind of undead, from what I can see.
Okay.
And that doesn't mean you can't do that if that's what you want to play, but I'd need to know a bit more about it.
Okay. So I'm thinking like, because they're vampires, it says they're spawns from vampires. If vampires are in this, I'm not entirely sure, but he could have been like a human that was bitten by a vampire turned into a vampire.
That's not how vampires work.
Well, that's what it says in the thing. But
that's how vampire spawns work, Neil. You get bitten by a vampire.
Vampire.
That's a vampire spawn.
Spawn of vampires. Okay.
No, Dampiers. Sorry, you got me saying Dampire. It's
You know
Dampier.
what? You know what he's trying to do, don't you? He's just trying to make this whole accent thing even harder because we will have a Transylvanian and a Russian.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm just going to be.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
It's going to be hopeless.
Yes. No. So yeah. So Dampiers, they're the offspring of They're basically half vampires. So unlike vampire spawns, which are bitten and then transformed through the corruption of vampirism, they're actually natural births given from female humans traditionally, who then have both the blood of vampire and normal. It's why they're not actually undead, because they are born alive. Now, I've asked this in chat, but I'm going to ask this vocally as well. I'm thinking about getting inspiration from the chat as to what I should play. I think I would have a lot of fun. I think I'd have a lot of fun playing a bunch of different characters. So I'm going to ask the chat to throw out some suggestions. I've linked up Archives of Nethys for anyone who doesn't know about Pathfinder First Edition. So you can have a look there. So far, I've gotten a suggestion for a Battle Herald, which I think is kind of cool, but I think a Battle Herald would really need someone to team up with to really kind of work properly, and that would entirely come down to Neil. The second is a Goblin Alchemist who loves burning from Goblin Cave TV, which I always love that. I can definitely play a Pyromaniac Goblin. In fact, I remember
One solution to the cold thing.
Well, there's always my character who I've always wanted to bring back, and I haven't brought him back for years. Actually, you know what? I'll see if I still have the artwork for him. But he's a character that I made for one of my anniversaries on YouTube a while ago, and his name is Chompface. And yeah, I played him I didn't play him. I kind of made a couple of videos with him ages and ages ago, and yeah, no, I mean, it could be really funny. It could be really funny to play Chompface, if I can find.
Yeah,
I'll keep looking, but yeah.
Yeah, you keep looking. The only thing that I picked up from the intro that we've had so far is that somebody with some woodsmanship, survival, navigation skills would probably be a good idea. That does seem to be the opening thrust there, is to go searching in these woods that are notoriously hard to find your way around. But yeah, how they've got lions in there, I've got no idea. That seems weird.
So we're doing, is it race first, then we talk about class, or we talk about that as well?
I look at this point, we're just looking for, we've covered the synopsis of the adventure about as well as we can, which in this case isn't very well, and I'm sorry about that. There's not much I can do. So we're looking for, how do we get you guys, your characters, into the story? So what we want at this stage is just a concept, a broad concept that has some reason for being involved in this whole thing. And so in the little schema that I've got going on the side here, that's step 4, the synopsis. Step 5 is the actual character creation, which is outlines. But so concept, I would probably include race or ancestry. It's still race in Pathfinder First Edition. They still use that. Ancestry is probably a better term. And class as well.
So I'm thinking a vampire that was raised by a human, but his father was a vampire. He would have been living in the area. What's the name of this place we're at?
Heldren, village of Heldren.
So he'd be actually from Heldren, and mainly he's like just a kind of traveler who would have met Michael's character, and whatever Michael needed help with, he'd be able to help.
I don't want my character. I don't want my character to like you. I mean.
Oh, what?
No, I'm teasing.
Fine, be that way. No, I don't like you either, man. No, just kidding.
Two rivals.
But
I will just read this little bit from Archives of Nethys. Dampires are signs of evil. Few races view them favorably. They share an affinity for those half-breeds whose sinister ancestry also sets them apart from human society, particularly tieflings and half-orcs. Humans view them with a combination of fear and pity, though such feelings often devolve into hatred and violence. Other humanoid races such as dwarves, elves, and halflings simply shun them. Similarly, Dhampirs bear a deep-seated loathing for living creatures. Their hatred planted by jealousy and fed by frustration. So I don't want to say no, because that's not my place, but I think my gut feeling is that that would be a difficult role to play, particularly because I suspect some of the Eastern European style settings that you're going to be in are going to be very superstitious. Without even reading ahead, I'd pretty much.
Okay.
You're going to be lucky if they don't hunt you down with pitchforks.
Well, the thing I was thinking, if I had to hide my identity, I was thinking for the vigilante. So I could be like hide my Dampire identity.
Right. Let's just go back a step. You want to be Batman, right?
No.
You're a vampire-like vigilante.
No.
Sounds a lot like Batman.
It's not saying Batman.
Okay, so if Neil's playing a Dhampir, I want to play Blade. So like just a Kinslayer. Yeah.
Kinslayer's never. No, just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'll make something else. But the vigilante did have a peak in mind for me, so.
Well, look, you can totally go vigilante. Vigilante works because you're chasing down. You're trying to find somebody who has apparently been kidnapped by bandits.
Okay.
So that's an easy buy. You're a vigilante. You're someone who, for either for moral reasons or for money, you're as much here about hunting down the baddies as you are about rescuing this person who's gone missing.
Gotcha.
That bit works.
Okay, and then in which case, yeah, I'm not entirely sure what I should pick, so I kind of want the audience to do that to me too, if they're willing. But I'll keep looking unless someone wants me to play a specific race.
Did you find that goblin, Michael?
I did not. It's fine. Oh, that's actually a good one. Okay, so I've got a couple of things. I got a couple of things in mind here, based on what the audience has said. I definitely like the idea. So this is what I've ended up with as inspiration. And I'm gonna do a poll for it. But I also want to. I also want to ask everyone what they. I want to ask everyone what they think of it as well before I set up the poll. But so here are the suggestions that stood out to me as my favorite ones. We had a Kitsune Samurai, which I thought would be very, very cool and a lot of fun. The Goblin Alchemist, which I love the idea of, like a pyromaniac kind of character. Like I love the idea of like fire, especially in an ice kind of campaign. So that was kind of cool. And I was thinking, because a couple of people were making it points on like a dex-based build, but a kinetic knight would also be kind of cool, like a kineticist who does a lot of melee combat and stuff like that, which I think could be a lot of fun to play if I treat it like kind of like maybe like a monk with like. Who controls like ice and makes like these big fists and then just bludgeons people with it, and that could be a lot of fun. And to answer the option of what would I like to play, I always love playing like the Hercules hero, and the idea that there are lions here. I would definitely like to create a character, maybe like basically like the lion slayer, as it were. So like something like a hunter or kind of thing like that. So those are the ones that I've thrown out together. So what do you guys think?
So you're thinking like a Craven style big game hunter?
Yeah. Actually, you know what? I'm even going to call it that. Craven the Hunter is going to be the
Craven the Hunter.
Yeah.
You go, at the moment we have Blade and Craven the Hunter. We're just gonna make a superhero game now, guys.
Yes. No.
Yep, that's it. Oh, actually, you know what? Let's look at the kinetic. Let's look at making the samurai a kinetic blade. That could be kind of cool. And that way we've got that as well. And I need one more suggestion. Let's see. What was the other suggestion that was there? A Bogard vigilante.
A boggard.
Really? Okay.
Oh, you know what? Actually, on that one, I'm going to be inspired by that one. I'm going to go with a Gripply monk. That'd be
It's
my...
frog dudes, right?
Yeah,
Those
yeah, the
frogs-
tiny
frogs-
little frog dudes.
Frogs deal with cold so well.
Yeah. Hi ho, everybody. Kermit Frog here.
Kermit Frog here.
I think a Gripply monk
All the
would be
fluids in
hilarious.
my body are freezing. My eyes! I can't move my eyes.
He licks his eyes for moisture and his tongue gets stuck. Like, oh no! Oh, terrible. No, I love it. Okay, no, I'm gonna put it there. Just for fun. That's a for fun one as well. And one more. No, I'm gonna put in Yuri. Yuri, big Russian. Barbarian. That's it. Like, nice and easy. Yeah, big Russian barbarian. Nothing special about him. He's gonna be an unarmed fighter who just gets angry and clobbers things. He might have like a stick. He might have a woodsman's axe. It doesn't matter. Like, whatever he's got on hand, that's what he uses to just whop people.
Kermit the Conqueror.
Yeah, hi there. I'm Kermit the Conqueror.
Yes.
You will need to submit. We're about to go into 1,000 years of darkness. Yay!
Yeah!
All right, the poll is up. People can vote for whoever they would like to see.
All right. There was. What are they? What's the plant race called? I forgot what.
The
They're
Goran.
Goran?
Ghoran.
I see like Vine Leshy, but
Then you want a. Yeah, so there's the Goran and the.
Okay. I see Goran.
There's another one as well. Gatlane. Gatlane is the Vine Leshies in Pathfinder First Edition.
Okay.
If I play Kermit, Neil has to play Gonzo, and play play him as a wizard.
That's a
See, I was gonna suggest Fozzie, but you know.
Yeah, Fozzie as a bard.
I'm Bossy Bear.
Waka waka.
Waka waka.
All right, it's a pretty even spread. I've got 3 votes for Yuri, 3 votes for the Samurai Kitsune, and 2 votes for Craven the Hunter.
So then you do another poll for those two.
Careful,
We're gonna have
Ken.
a runoff election.
Yeah, that's it. Well, in the event of a tie, I always end up getting to decide.
I think you should get to decide anyway.
Yeah, well, that's true. And now we have a 3-way tie. Actually, you know what? I think with the 3-way tie, I will try to include a little bit of everyone in this. So I think that'll be it. If I get 3 points for everything and one thing does, I need one more vote to any of these 3, and I'm gonna watch as one person like goes Gripply monk.
I was assuming that, yeah.
All right, let's see. I think we've got a 3-way tie. Guys. You guys are no help. You guys are no help at all. All right, Craven the Hunter, Kitsune Samurai, and Yuri the Big Russian. All right, so here's what I'm gonna do. I am gonna go with a. We just want you to pick. All right, so here we go. I'm gonna go with a Kitsune. I'm gonna go with the Oriental style of the kitsune. I love that idea. Now, in the traditional Japanese culture, there were the Ronin, who were of course the samurai who were without masters and the like. I like the idea that maybe my character is like. Have you ever watched Samurai Champloo? It's very
I've
very
heard of it. I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, it's
but
a
yes.
great. It's absolutely great. There's like it's a story of like two samurai on a quest to help a young girl try and find her father who smells like sunflowers, and there's two very distinct styles of swordsmanship that come from these two particular things, particularly from these characters. One is kind of like your traditional, like what you imagine a samurai to be. You know, he's like kind of proper and honorable and has like kind of like kind of quick moves, very elegant. And the other guy is kind of like this wild lunatic Samurai Champloo. He's a wild lunatic who wears like sandals and like he's very raggy and stuff. And he kind of like fights almost like he's throwing himself at people rather than looking like a samurai. So I think in order to make Kraven the Hunter samurai barbarian, I think that's the style that I might go with. I might make a kineticist who is like who maybe killed a samurai. So my kitsune actually killed a samurai and didn't realize what he was, and he's got like this very old and worn like samurai sword, and he kind of liked fighting them. So he's kind of like on this like mission to find other people like him, like strong people. But he's also very lazy. He's also very kind of like thuggish. He has killed a lion, and he maybe did it with his like bare hands, which goes into the whole kinetic power thing. So that's kind of what it was. It was like he kind of beat the beast, as it were, beat the king of the beasts, and now he's trying to find the king of people, as it were. But the king of people is like this weakling on a throne. So maybe he's like a little disappointed because he came all the Taldor to kill the king of men, as it were, and it's like, what's this? What's this nonsense? I like that. I like that kind of concept. What do you guys think?
Yep, and I like the concept. It'll be interested to see how when we get to the next step of how we get this into you tracking down a lost person in the woods.
Yeah, I'm thinking Gethlane or the Gorin does sound like because I've always imagined playing a plant like a I always forget what they're called in the forest. The like a dryad, the dryad kind of. I think that's what they're called, right?
Well, there's definitely scope for playing some kind of wood fae
Yeah.
from the border wood. That works.
Okay.
Okay.
I think Goran would be kind of cool.
All right. So, kineticist and race. What race should I go? Kitsune. Other races. Kitsune. There we go. Shape-shifting foxfolk. -2 strength. Ugh! Is there one that doesn't lose strength?
Forgot what the vigilantes mainly need.
I mean, I can lose strength. That's fine. I'm not. I don't need that. That's fine.
Well, depending on the attribute build system, you can work against that and still get up to 16 probably.
Yeah. Wouldn't be overly difficult to and the thing is I'm very much a max minner, so I can make a damn good frontline fighter with like negative strength. That wouldn't be a problem. Oh, there you go. Yeah, cool. All right, so I'm gonna make a Kitsune samurai thing. Okay, for the purposes of this, I'm gonna make it in Fantasy Grounds, just so I can have it and it's nice and easy for me. Okay, so what is the point buy for our particular.
I do not know the answer to that, so I would just say it was standard Pathfinder First Edition. I gather they'll probably have the table where it's like heroic fantasy, gritty fantasy, and standard, and I would go in.
Well, it's actually okay. So yeah. So it'd be 15 points for the low end, 20 points for the average, 25 for the heroic.
Let's go 20.
20?
I think then. Yeah.
All right.
Do it.
Okay. Okay, so sidebar. Create PC. There we go. Done. Race. Oh, I have to load up all my books. No. Okay, fine. I will do that. Yep. On the bright side, I only ever have to do it once. So there you go. Okay, so yeah, I love the idea of this Kitsune Samurai kineticist. So, to let the audience know what this entails, a kineticist is a master of the elements. Think like Avatar: The Last Airbender. That's the nature of the character. And what the kinetic knight can do at the very least is, rather than firing off blasts of whatever element, they channel their abilities into a weapon. So I like the idea of this kineticist. I don't know what element I'll choose, so we'll probably have a discussion on that. But for the most part, I like the idea of this guy being like, almost like you never know that they're a kineticist. You know what I mean? Like, they spend so much time just wailing on people with this like broken and rusty sword that instead of actually blasting people with like his major ability, he spends all of his time just like just hitting people. So I like that. I like that as a potential prospect for this character. So Kitsune. Okay, advanced races. There we go. Okay. And we have 15 points. Random 1177. Thank you so much. Kitsune Trickster uses intelligence instead of strength. Any homebrew rules we're adding is a question in chat at the moment.
Not at the moment. I'll be looking into that before we get to session 1. Just a quick reminder for those who might have come in later. This is something that we've putting together on about half an hour's notice. So I'm actually more familiar with Pathfinder 2nd Edition, and I'm going to have to unlearn some of that stuff to get back into Pathfinder 1st Edition.
Yeah.
Gathwains and the other one, Goran, will actually both work. They both have a place within the Border Wood. I think the Gathwain might be an easier play in terms of the social interactions, because the Goran are quite alien.
Okay.
Although, in your case, Neil, I would point out to you that the Goran are traditionally delicious, and everyone wants to eat them. But there is a trait that you can switch to make it disgusting instead, so you taste bad.
But it'd be really funny is if my character was like walking behind him the whole time, just every now and then he's like chewing on something. He's like, "Are you eating me?" No.
Nope. Why is my arm missing? I think because it doesn't say like where under vigilante which like would be best for it, but I'm guessing Dex though and charisma. So I think the
Gathwain has Dex and
would be-
Charisma, but Vigilante would be a bit of a strange choice for the Gathwain.
Yeah.
Mischievous and capricious. Gathwains have discordant temperaments. Most are chaotic, and they tend to be morally neutral.
Okay.
So, if the Gathwain got it into its head that those people were annoying and wanted to hunt them down, totally could do that. But yeah.
Okay.
They are known as guides, though. Apparently, guides and explorers.
I could always be a guide through like the forest that you were talking about.
Yep,
But
that
it's
would
still
work.
not like, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'll do that then. I guess. Yeah, oops. I guess. Sweet.
So at the moment we have a Kitsune Kinetic Knight and a Gathlane Guide. I can see this is going to be good for alliteration.
All
Which
right.
brings us to step 5 in the character creation, and the 3 golden rules that Michael suggested, and I like them, is why are they in this adventure? Why are you invested in the success of the group, and what is your personal motivation? So if I can suggest, it seems to me that the samurai is there to hunt down the baddies and, you know, recover the missing person, but hunt down baddies, and the Gathlane's there as a known guide to the Borderwood.
Guide to the, yeah. Sounds good to me.
And that gives both of you a good reason to be in this adventure. Next bit is why you invested in the success of the group, because I get the feeling that you probably won't have spent a lot of time together when we start. So what are the rewards that you guys have been offered? I guess you don't know that yet. We'll find out in game.
Okay. So I mean, with those three things in mind, I think the nature of this particular character is kind of one of, yeah, because so it was mentioned in chat, like the idea of like the blade being like the samurai blade being so worn and tired and the like, that it's like chipped and broken. I like the idea that this character is kind of pursuing something that they don't know exists, and that it's the sense of like that warriorship, that swordsmanship, that kind of that nature that he saw in the samurai that he doesn't see in himself. And that he was in the area to hunt, basically. But he used to use his fist. He used to just bludgeon things and hit things, and that was the nature of it. As for like why he would be going to help find a survivalist in the woods or find this thing in the woods, I could imagine that he spends so much time in the woods and in the wilds away from people, only coming in to kind of like, you know, eat some food and get some alcohol. That would be a reason why people would ask for him. It's like, oh, you know what we should do? We should ask that wild man to like help out. And it's like, yeah, but that guy's like a drunk. It's like, yeah, but you know, he freaking like walks around like, you know, with a lion pelt on. I mean, this guy's definitely the guy we want to go and, you know, go into the wilderness to try and find something.
So fill me in, the kitsune there, it's to do with the Japanese and the samurai, I'm guessing. But what's the other draw of kitsune there over something like a shifter, one of the Eberron style shifters? The kitsune to me is more of a trickster, and I'm not. This isn't a criticism. It's just
no. I
reflect on it.
No, I see what you're saying.
Kitsune often trickster spirit rather than this type. It feels to me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, for me, that's exactly why. Is because it's not traditional. I mean, as far as trickstering goes, and like kitsune have a, I guess for me, they have a traditional sense of like connection to like the world around them, the to nature and to stuff like they're effectively like kami spirits as well. So that plays into the idea of the kineticist, and that's what sparked that originally when I was thinking about the kineticist, because I still haven't picked an element yet. I was thinking like the foxfire, for example, And so then when he's like channeling his kinetic energy, it's like these tiny like foxfire motes that he uses as he kind of like cuts with his, sword. At least that's the original thought here. But in order to try and keep the kind of big burly barbarian idea, as well as the idea of Kraven the Hunter, I like the idea of him being just this big, strong, at least what's the word? Non-traditionally strong swordsman who goes around hunting things that are bigger, nastier, and stronger than they are, which is not an archetype traditionally seen. Like, you don't usually see like Kitsune going head to head with something, which is what I think they would be very proud of, is that compared to a lot of Kitsune, he does go head to head with things. I also imagine that he does like the whole half Kitsune thing, like rather than turning into the full-blooded Kitsune, he's just like this like drunk dude with like these tiny fox ears, who's got like just this slovenly appearance as opposed to like this very elegant and regal one.
Can I suggest something there?
Yeah.
I'm just seeing in my head the kitsune in Japanese culture is very often a white fox.
It's like an Arctic fox.
Yeah, I'm seeing more a red fox.
Oh yeah, me too. That's you know what? To be honest, that's kind of what I was like thinking, because coming from a temperate climate. A red fox definitely feels nice.
Yep. It's halfway to a nickname as well.
That's true. That's very true. Tracking yetis, that could be kind of cool. I mean, I think the start of this game is that the winter is unnatural to this, or unseasonal to this area. Yeah. So the forest isn't supposed to be frosted. It just happens to be at this point.
I guess there are ways of doing this without looking at the book. There's definitely ways you could play this adventure path where you just skip ahead to that first step into the winter situation. So if you wanted to play this with characters that are specific ice-based and Russian, you could probably just start either halfway through level 1 or level 2, whatever it happens to be, where you've sort of made that first jump into that next environment. I think they've set it up this way so that you can take your generic fantasy characters and play it in this. And for that, they've just specifically chosen a woodland area that is fairly generic. It's specifically in the south of Taldor, so it's in a very temperate region.
Yeah, so there wouldn't be a I mean, you could technically run this adventure in any environment, really, because it's supposed to be just an unnatural winter. So you could have this in the desert, for example.
Ooh, that'd be interesting, wouldn't it?
Mm.
Like the sort of high plateau in Chile where it's like freezing cold, dry.
Yeah, exactly. All right.
Any more thoughts on that, the Gath Lane, Neil?
Well, the one thing I kind of thought about when you mentioned that the ice has like, or it kind of froze over in an unnatural season. That could be why I'm kind of like as the vigilante part of me is just he as a Githlane. I'm trying to figure out why the forest has been frozen over. So I'm trying to figure out and deal with what happened. And then joining up.
It's kind of just a case of indulging your curiosity, and also you don't like it being cold.
Yeah, not in this particular season. I've dealt with cold before, but this is an unnatural season for this to be happening, so I'm trying to fix it. Possibly.
Yeah, I'm still thinking there must be a better class than like Vigilante. You look at the starting things, and it's a good mix of abilities. It's got some social, it's got some stealth, it's got some combat. That's really appropriate for a Gath Lane and. But you look at level 1 and you've got dual identity. It's going to be kind of hard to have a secret identity when you're a small fae.
True. I could have like an identity for going in, like, because I I don't just stay in the forest. I kind of go to like villages as well. I'll have an identity for going into villages, and when I'm outside of it,
Oh, I see. So you use that for like a human
yeah. So like I have my human
acceptable persona.
guys, and then my vigilante.
Yeah.
like,
Okay. No, I like that. That's
would
good.
be
That
my
would.
actual plant, looking. So
Yeah, that would work. So like you appear like just a halfling or something
yeah.
in human. Yeah. Okay. That could definitely work.
All right, and also I'd like to say, have a wonderful night, Careful Cantrip. And as per requested, not only will I add this particular character sheet to the channel on my Discord, I'm also going into the live play shows and creating a new show for Reign of Winter. So that way we can put any artwork or anything there. So that is now officially in there. Reign of Winter. Underneath Attack of the underneath Attack of the Swarm is Reign of Winter. So anything
That feels scarily official.
Yeah, no, yeah, no pressure. No. So yeah, all of the stuff will be down there. Yeah. All right. Bye bye. All right. So I think I've got a good background for that. I guess the next question that I have for my audience, as well as for my group, is what element for my kineticist should I pick? Because the element pretty much determines so much of what this character actually will be capable of doing. So the element of focus, let's see. Element of focus. Sorry, I have to duck between several pages here. Are the typical culprits, which is, earth, air, fire, water, etc. There's aether, which is like telekinesis. Air, earth, fire, universal.
That's just the one that's available to everyone.
Oh, yeah. Void. Ooh, that could be kind of cool. Negative energy and chaos. Water, wood.
Wood?
Okay.
Oh.
All right, so
the phytokineticist. That sounds cool.
A what?
The wood element is because it's PHYTO, phytokineticist. The name just sounds awesome.
That would be very cool. All right, where is that?
And sorry, either is the easiest if you're planning to avoid the usual elemental styles. If you don't want to lean into a particular earth, air, fire, and water Captain Planet kind of thing, then Aether is a pretty easy choice. Void carries with it some interesting connotations and moral background from the Oriental traditions.
Yeah, that's kind of another thing I was looking at, like the idea of like a samurai, but then chaos is the major stick with that. That could be kind of cool. Wood fits the character a little bit, says Lance. I think wood could as well.
Yep.
But I mean, if I did wood and Neil was playing a Goran, I think that'd be the only reason I wouldn't want to do wood as a primary one. Good night, Falcon. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you for joining us. Also, sorry, go on.
Sorry, go.
I was gonna say water also has the healing infusion as well. Though I didn't intend to play a healer. I think that could also be kind of a useful, just in general, just be damn useful.
It would be absolutely. Some healing is always good to have in the party. my own feeling, and look, this is biased by my preferences. I like Earth as it's often my elemental choice when I do make characters, but I think it does kind of fit in this case, in that kind of direct strength kind of feel.
I think for me, the one thing that makes me not want to take Earth, and this is all it comes down to, is that it qualifies for the pushing infusion, but not the pulling infusion. So if I were to use it, for example, I'd have a much easier time knocking people away from me than pulling them in. And looking at like what was it? Looking at the Void. The Void has pulling and pushing. So I can actually draw people in towards me into melee, which I think could be very, very advantageous. But I do like the defensibility of Earth as well, like getting higher damage reduction, stuff like that. Why does Aether not have pulling? You'd think that, like, telekinesis would. Evidently not. It has foe throw, though.
Telekinetic boomerang.
All right. And then there's obviously fire.
Third level Aether has Force Hook, which might have the pulling.
Ah, that's probably it. Yeah.
That's third level, so it would be a little while.
Yeah.
Taking a look at some of these like vigilante talents, which I'll have to look into more later, but I can just see like imagine the Gathane, like for the what is it, the vigilante talent called well, it's like the first one called Animal Patron. How he turns it to his he gains the benefits of a minor shifter aspect. He can shift and do his minor aspect as a swift action. I could just imagine me like roots and like vines like curling around me to turn me into this thing to make me look like an animal, if that's what it would be like. I'm not entirely sure. But...
Okay, maybe there's a bit of metagame in here. There definitely is. But fire has the wild talent for cold adaptation. So I actually get if I take burn, I get permanent endure elements against cold. Which of course for this particular game would be just downright useful.
Look, fire is entirely in keeping with the sort of volatile nature of both the Kitsune and I think your character's
personality,
approach and personality.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Oh, Blue Flame Blast. That sounds a lot like Foxfire.
Yeah, that's what I was looking as well. That's the composite one. Yeah, I think I might go fire with this one. Yeah, I think I'll start with fire.
Well, you did say you were talking about the Goblin Pyromaniac in the beginning, so.
Yeah, there you go. So, okay, so elemental focus is fire. Okay, so now that I know that, what I need next is okay, so background story as to why I'm invested in the story. I think again, if we're looking for someone who's gone missing in the forest, my character is just someone who lives in the forest quite a lot. But I would definitely like to be... I definitely like the idea that my character is not a drunkard, mind you, but when he goes to town, it's about rebels. It's not about, doing work. For him, he's always searching for stronger things, ways to prove, ways to, prove that he is stronger. Not out of pride or anything like that. Just like he's just competitive. So anyone challenging him, he'll kind of take that very, very seriously. And I think actually in that regard, I think his god will be Kyrgyz, who is the god of athleticism and competition. I think he's chaotic neutral. He would be chaotic good, but I think he's very selfish, and that's what makes him neutral. It's not that he wouldn't help if he doesn't have the opportunity to, is that he simply does not see or does not understand or interpret what's gone wrong in order to help. So a child fallen into a well, he'll be like, yeah, someone else is taking care of that. But then when it's like no one's taking care of it, it's like then he's like, oh crap, I should probably do something, and then he'll kind of jump into it. You know what I mean? So that for me is a neutral as opposed to good. Good is kind of like, oh, something's gone wrong, I'll rush off. He prefers to see if someone else will do it. Not because he's lazy, just because he's very selfish. And with that, I think that would be kind of a good motivation for him to invest in this. It's someone buys him, a round of drinks, or someone pays off his tab, which might be quite absorbent once he's gotten going, and that's plenty for him to motivate to going and looking for this missing person. Alternatively, I think the start of it is a survivalist has been brought into town, who is, with the missing people. And maybe I'm associated with them. Maybe I'm friends with this particular individual. And, I'm kind of doing it as a favor. But again, in that very selfish way of I suppose, you did do that thing for me. And it's like, okay, cool. Let's go, settle this debt, as it were. Unwillingly, but at the same time doing it. As for the investment in the party, Niels Goran, what class were you looking at?
The
Gathlane Vigilante.
Vigilante.
So not the Goran, who's the sort of the real plant creature, but the Gathlane, which is the
fairy
forest fae.
Yeah. So with the Gathlane, I guess I just see you as what's his name?
I kind of saw it as the way I was thinking, because you said your character was staying in the forest.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So my character being a protector of the forest, you coming in, as long as you haven't destroyed anything, but not a whole lot of people come to just live in the forest. So I keep tabs and keep coming to check up on you.
Oh, I absolutely destroy things, not wild and mindlessly, but it's like there's a wild boar that's in the area, and it's like, yeah, that looks big. And, then I go in, I kill it, and then I eat it, and then, just live in the woods and just do that. Loves a good fight. And he probably sees, Navi, that's it. That's the word I was looking for. Navi from Legend of Zelda. I might be sleeping under a tree, and then have this Gatling go, hey, listen. And then maybe, and if you're okay with this, Neil, I'd love for my character to take very playful swipes at you. But, I say playful as in that, my character is very lazy and that he's very violent, and that if you try to bother him while he's sleeping, he'll listen to you. But he'll if you sort of poke him or nudge him, he sort of swings that rusty samurai sword, the broken samurai sword out and around. I'll never actually try to hit you, but it'll be just like this.
You hit me, and then my vine just reconnects.
Yeah.
The vine body is more a Goran thing. If you're Gathlane, then that's more that you're the type of more like not a sprite, because they tend to be even smaller, but like a fae, but you have woody wings. So you actually have wings that are more plant-like.
Okay.
I'd have to get some art up so I can actually have a better look at it, but that's the impression I get.
I can look
my feeling, Michael, is that if you've actually come from a Kitsune community, or if you've known other Kitsunes, then the Gathlane's approach to curiosity and sort of the more capricious approach,
Oh wow! Okay.
you would know exactly what it would be kind of reminding you of home a little bit.
Mm.
But that's just I don't know enough about this. That's my guess.
No, I like that.
All right, cool.
I'm gonna have to find out
but-
who this missing person is that they're sending these two
Yeah,
two
but
unreliable characters off into the woods to find them. Nobody wants to go in there. We're gonna send these two.
Yep, that's it. That's all it comes down to.
They already live in there. It's all right. Nah.
So I think I think that for this one in particular I'll have I think maybe that's why I seem intolerant of Neil's character, because it reminds me of like Home and the Capricious Fate and the, like the kids and the regular Kitsune, whereas mine is like they're all weaklings and I don't want to be like them. That's why I'm not there. That's why I'm not doing stuff with them.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah, I kind of dig that idea.
That's
All right.
awesome.
Okay, so that's connection to the success of the group. The success of the group is, as much as I pretend like I don't like Niels' character, there is that connection to Home. That's kind of partially there.
Yeah,
And,
so you probably really wouldn't like it if anyone heard him.
Yeah, exactly. But I'd never let that on until that happens, and then Rain of Fire kind of deal. Then as far as what makes me not an NPC. I think what makes this character not an NPC is his own quest for strength, as it were. Like, what is the definition of strength? Before, he thought the definition of strength was firepower, quite literally. And that's how I think he used to fight and how he used to do things. He used to just go up and just, kind of start bludgeoning people with flaming fists and then call it a day. And then kind of when the samurai showed up, and fought him with no magic and no powers and stuff, and beat him to near defeat, but I ended up winning. I didn't understand how this person could put up such a fight, and I kept his weapon to kind of figure out if I could figure out how to use it. So with my feats, I've got exotic weapon proficiency and weapon focus for the katana, for no other reason than I have just been swinging it a lot. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it's kind of like that. It's kind of like that. You practice, you practice the same stroke like 1,000 times, and you eventually learn it. So he doesn't act like a samurai in the traditional sense, with like a proper form and a proper style. But he swings it so well and with such purpose that it's quite useful. And the weapon focus and the exotic weapon proficiency. As well as for this particular thing, if you're all right with it, Pathfinder First Edition has traits, and every character starts with 2 traits. I took Heirloom Weapon in order to get exotic weapon proficiency, because I picked up the sword.
That makes sense.
Now, the reason I did that was because exotic weapon proficiency with a katana means that you can use it in 2 hands or 1 hand, and I definitely imagine my guy using it in 1 hand, like, incorrectly. And the second trait I got was the Sword Scion, which usually applies to long swords and dueling swords. I'm asking for permission if I can apply that to the katana as well. Basically, it just gives me a +1 to my attack on attacks made with katana and combat maneuvers.
Yeah, I don't have a particular problem with that.
Yeah. So that brings my base attack at level 1 to +4. So it's not overly great, but
So your strength is still not huge then.
no. My stats currently are 15 strength,
Yep.
10 dexterity, 17 constitution,
17 con. Okay.
8 intelligence, 10 wisdom, and 10 charisma. So yeah, he basically is good at getting drunk, lying about, taking hits and the like. A lot of the kineticist's abilities and stuff is based on constitution. So
That might be it. Yeah.
yeah, so his fire and stuff will be very tied into the constitution. And like I said, with the strength for now, having it as a +2, it'll have a chance to kind of grow as the character grows. And eventually I want to, one of the goals that I have for the character, I guess, is I want to try and buy or upgrade my sword to have the conduit upgrade infusion, which will allow me to channel flame through the sword. So I can't do that yet. I can make a fire sword or a fire lash or a fire weapon, like that's part of the kinetic knight ability. But it is not the katana, as it were.
Yep.
So I have
makes
both.
sense.
Yeah, I have both of those abilities, but not combined, and I will want to combine them later on.
Well, I think the details of the build from here, I think it's probably best to leave to you guys. I've got enough now that I can go away and do some research and reading and work out what that looks like.
Yeah.
Um,
As for that, Neil, what about you in terms of your big three?
Big three.
Connection to the story. Connection
Why this
to the...
adventure?
Oh,
Why
yeah,
invested in
so-
the success of the group? What's the personal
Right.
motivation?
So is the I'm very bad at thinking of these, but I can try. So his connection to the group would be that he has been spending time with Michael's character in the forest, making sure he doesn't like destroy the forest or the animal life. Obviously, boars, if there's too many of things, it's here or there. He needs to eat as well. And just to make sure he's. But
Neil's character has been acting as your chaperone. You realize that, don't you? Chaperone / policeman. Stop killing those things.
The connection to the campaign would be that he wants to protect the forest, and even though the forest does cross over in a different season, which would normally happen, each season has to happen coactively. So because essentially the winter happened during summer or any other season is unnatural. So he wants to figure it out, and he's going around with Michael's character to assumingly figure it out along the way. But mainly helping his character out in his plays. And what was the last one?
Personal motivation.
Personal motivation. Mainly it's the whole seasons. Like he's got to protect the forest as well as the people who kind of live around the forest. 4 seasons is good enough. We don't need one season and 2 different ones. Other than that,
So like kind of trying to put the seasons back to where they should be. Is that kind of...
yeah, correct the natural balance, I guess.
Yep, that works.
Yeah.
So just to summarize, and this is a very short version. I'm not saying this is correct. For Michael, for you, why this adventure is that you have a bond to the guide who was leading the other party, and or that somebody has effectively offered to pay off your debt in town in return for you performing this task.
Mhm.
You're invested in the success of the group because as much as Neil's character is annoying, he kind of reminds you of home. And so you want to succeed on your own part for building up those skills, but also that bringing Neil's character safely through.
Yep.
And the personal motivation is to grow in strength, to come to the point where you understand how one can fight with a sword and just a sword.
Yep.
And for Neil, why this adventure? It's the bond to you because he's been watching over your character for a while, but also because as a Gathlane and vigilante has skills that are really useful to this job, so the townsfolk would be seeking him out anyway. Why invested in the success of the group? Well, that's more to do with the personal motivation, but also the bond to you, I guess. And the overall personal motivation is protect the forest and restore the natural balance. Is that a reasonable summary?
Yeah, it sounds good.
Cool. All right, well, it's just gone 11. I think we should wrap it up there. Michael, I know you were planning to use this as a kind of model for session 0. So perhaps if you'd like to just wrap us up and pull out any particular points that you thought were useful in this.
Oh yeah,
From
absolutely.
your perspective.
Yeah. So I guess to wrap us or to bring us to the end of this, so I think it's important for session zeros to kind of make sure that the primary thing that you focus on is the connection that you make between the characters and the players. Like, it's always important for you to be able to build the characters, right? But ultimately, you don't want to ever forget or shirk on the fact that it is about having a good time, about having a game with people who you enjoy spending time with, and continuing to do so. Today we went over all the different points. So to reiterate those points again, that is, we started by outlining our expectations as people and what we wanted to enjoy from the game. We then made sure that we were all comfortable in the space, because ultimately that's one of the key things about enjoying things, is you have to be comfortable. So we outlined our comfort zones, what things we were okay with, what things we weren't okay with. We then started to build up the basics of the game. What did we want to do? What was our desires? Which came down to what game we wanted to play, tie that into our expectations, and we ended up with Reign of Winter, which weirdly enough wasn't one of the things that we originally were talking about, but that's how these sorts of things work. Ultimately, it comes down to this one matches what we're going to be doing best. After that, we then looked at our character concepts, and for the... Wait, did we look at character concepts? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And the character concepts that we were looking at were not just ideas, but also notions in order to allow us to interact with each other and the world in a way that is going to just make sure the game is going to be fun, which are how does our backstory connect to the main story? The reason being is we don't want to find ourselves in a position where we aren't connected and we don't want to do the quest and we don't want to do the job because it's a shit thing to do. The second was why are we connected to each other? Because ultimately you need to be able to work with the people at the table. If your character is like this lone wanderer who doesn't want to get along with anyone, then you're going to have trouble. Even in my case, where my character is very singular, as it were, the lone dude who's trying to find strength, I have a relationship with Neil's character, and that's what connects us together. And the third is why you're not an NPC. Have a motivation, have a goal, have something you're striving to do and accomplish. Because if you get to a point in the game where it's, let's say, a downtime, you finally succeeded at something in the main plot, if your character has nothing else or nothing better to do, then your character goes into this limbo state where they aren't a part of anything until the main plot comes back in. So that third one is also super important. So yeah, we went through all of these steps. I'd like to give a very, very special thank you to Rick for obviously volunteering to do this very last minute, and a thank you to Neil as well. I look forward to busting this out when we have the opportunity. Yeah, we are going to now bid you guys farewell and raid someone, as we do love to share the raid. Another big thank you to everyone who raided us today: the Mercs of Mischief, Salsa Ray, Goblin Cave. You guys are awesome, and it's always absolutely wonderful to see so many people, so many familiar faces coming out and having a good time with us. All right, let's go and raid, but let's see who's up and about at the moment. That's okay, Callie. We love having you here. Let's see. Let's go raid Q Times. So we're going to go and raid them. Q Times are a group of wonderful streamers. Nope, that's Quest Times. Spell it right, Michael. There we go. So yeah, we're going to go and raid them. They are currently playing a superhero-themed game, which, of course, I'm a big fan of. So definitely be sure to stick around for the raid so that you earn those DAG dollary dues, which you will be able to use not only in this game, but any other game that you happen to find on this channel. Thank you once again to our lovely sponsors, Sirenscape, for the beautiful sounds. Yes, and do not forget the raid emotes when we jump in. And till next time, guys, as always, from us to you, game hard or die trying. Good night, everyone.
Good night. Okay.